Liliana Vess gets her teaching degree from Gatewatch Community College and has a new gig as a professor on Strixhaven, while another planeswalker is returning, but their hype is overblown because most people have no idea who they actually are. Let's get into spoilers for Magic the Gathering's latest set, Strixhaven. Hey everyone, and welcome to our very first day of Strixhaven spoilers, and we got a few doozies right off the bat. A couple of planeswalkers, with one appearing in very strange fashion. Loads of highbrows were peaked when news came out that Strixhaven would have a returning planeswalker, but not as we know them exactly. This, of course, caused rampant speculation, but with spoilers, this is confirmed that Liliana Vess will be appearing on this collegiate world sporting a brand new title, now a professor. This is Professor Onyx, which really disappointed me because I just assumed it was a new Pokemon crossover, a Universe Beyond card that saw the rock-type Onyx in a sports jacket with patched elbows. Alas, it's just Liliana Vess in disguise, but I gotta say, this one is one hell of a getup. I had no idea that this was Liliana until I saw that the creature type was Planeswalker Liliana. I can see this tricking a lot of players not paying close attention. Its name and its art. Yeah, this is one of the least Liliana-y Liliana Planeswalker cards I've ever seen, but I'm pretty sure that's the point. The card itself is Professor Onyx, a 5 loyalty Planeswalker for 4 generic and double black. It's a Liliana Planeswalker with the new keyword, Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Add 1 loyalty counter, you lose 1 life, but look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. -3 loyalty, each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures that player controls. And they're -8. Each opponent may discard a card. If they don't, they lose 3 life. Repeat this process 6 more times. So it's really hard for me to judge a Planeswalker for a new standard before basically any other card is revealed. But from Professor Onyx's abilities alone, I can say this is a pretty slow card. For me, someone who really likes limited, I judge a Planeswalker on how quickly it can get out, how impactful they are immediately, and if they're able to protect themselves once they hit the board. Professor Onyx seems to fit better in a black control deck. It has some removal, but it will only target the strongest creature out there. Not a big help if your opponent's going wide with multiple threats. In that sense, I can easily see Professor Onyx getting blown out, and it just feels really bad for that to happen after spending 6 mana on a Planeswalker. However, that +1 ability is really nice. Losing 1 life in order to fix your draw a bit is really strong, but again, it's feeding into this slow design of this Planeswalker. You're setting yourself up for your following turns and not really impacting the board as it is that turn. It is 1 life card draw though, but it's even better than that because it allows you to pick 1 out of the top 3 cards in your deck. So it's really strong, and it's chief among the reasons why I really like this card. Professor Onyx's ultimate is, well, it's an ultimate, isn't it? We are continuing to step away from permanent emblems with Planeswalker's ultimates, and as a result, they just don't feel as powerful or game-winning. Of course, Professor Onyx's ultimate is still amazing. It'll just take a bit to actually see it in use. Your opponent will either lose a lot of life, have no hand, or a great combination of both. It certainly will tip the game in your favor if you pull it off. But that is a steep loyalty counter price to pay, and it's going to take a little bit to ramp up, and since Liliana, or Professor Onyx, doesn't really have a great way to defend herself, it might be a little challenging to get this ultimate off, as it is the case for most Planeswalkers. Where I see Professor Onyx really shining is in multiplayer games, so I'm trying to think of all these abilities and how they would interact with an opponent, you know, in a standard format where it's just you versus one other opponent, but really where it shines is that its abilities, the Magecraft's keyword, and its other ability, the -3 to destroy the strongest creature a player has on the field, those are really impactful when you have multiple opponents. All of them are going to be affected by this Planeswalker at the same time, so the more opponents you have, the more value Professor Onyx has. And I think that's pretty interesting for a design. Oh, Professor Liliana, please don't send me to detention for what I'm about to say, but you're just not my type of Planeswalker. I kind of like going aggro as a player, so the slow row kind of deck manipulation this card offers just isn't really up my alley. Still, that +1 is, whew, it's a good-un. But no zombies. Is this even Liliana? She's become so buttoned down and such an authority figure. Next up, Kasmina Enigma Sage, a new Planeswalker card for a returning Planeswalker that most people don't even remember being a Planeswalker at all. Yeah, I saw people trying to hype up the return of Kasmina, but outside of the Vorthos community, how many players even remember Kasmina as a character? Her only previous card and mention in the game came from a new uncommon planeswalker in War of the Spark. So, with the 100 or so planeswalkers in that set, including a couple new ones, Kasmina here really just faded into the background. So yeah, not sure how much hype there was for her return, but whatever. Although, I do have to admit, seeing her in the story for War of the Spark, it personally got me excited to see more of this character. So, don't get me wrong, I'm excited to explore her in her elements, such as a place of learning and spellcraft that is Strixhaven. I just don't think many other players saw her coming, or necessarily cared. That's all. It's funny that Liliana gets the title of Professor when in War of the Spark, Kasmina was known as the Enigma Mentor, which we all know just sums down to bookworm for math. She doesn't quite get promoted to Professor, but she does keep the Enigma in Enigma Sage. She gains a new color going from mono blue to Simic colors, adding in that spice of green. She's a 2 loyalty planeswalker for 1 generic and those Simic colors, and has a static effect that reads, each other planeswalker you control has the loyalty abilities of Kasmina Enigma Sage. You can add 2 loyalty counters to Scry 1, remove X loyalty counters to create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, putting X 1/1 counters on it, and of course its ultimate also -8, search your library for an instant or sorcery card that shares a color with this planeswalker, exile that card, then shuffle. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So the most interesting thing about this planeswalker is that static effect. The fact that each other planeswalker you control has the same abilities as Kasmina Enigma Sage. Now, I'm not sure if this literally replaces other planeswalkers' abilities or just adds Kasmina's in addition to their previous abilities. It's some weird wording here. I assume it gives other planeswalkers the ability to use their own as well as Kasmina's abilities. But then I would expect that wording to say something like, you can use Kasmina's loyalty abilities in addition to their own. But still, it's super interesting that you get multiple uses of these abilities. It gives some flexibilities to planeswalkers that we don't necessarily see a whole lot of. The abilities themselves are what you'd expect from a 3-mana planeswalker. 3-mana walkers are really good. They come down early and are often a massive threat, but their abilities sort of reflect their cheap cost. Adding 2 loyalty to Scry 1 is just meh. Making an XX token creature does give you some ability to protect Kasmina when she hits the board, but if you're using it on turn 1 when she comes down, you've just made yourself a 1/1 for 3 mana, and that's not great. Her ultimate is going to take you a year and a miracle to actually pull off at 8 loyalty counters, and it's not even the slam game winner you'd expect it to be. Of course, getting literally any card out of your deck and playing it for free is great, but there aren't too many cards like that, in Standard anyway, that are going to win you the game outright. And remember, it is limited to instants and sorcery spells, and they have to be either green or blue or any combination therein. So there are some stipulations to it. So what do I think about Kasmina Enigma Sage? Well, she's weird. Green-blue are really strong colors currently in Standard, and I'm sure it's going to get loads of support further in Strixhaven, but these abilities are just really strange. They don't do a lot of impact to the board, and even the ultimate isn't too OP like you'd expect, but that's assuming that you even get to pull it off at all. The weirdest thing is that your other planeswalkers have the ability to use Kasmina's abilities as well, but really, do they even want to use them? Maybe there's a great combo sitting out there with another planeswalker who just stacks up loyalty counters all day, super easily, and if you get them to 8, you can slam down Kasmina Enigma Sage and get yourself a free card from your deck. When I think of it that way, I actually like this planeswalker a little bit more. Pair it with Loyalty Hogs, and you can have a 3-mana card from your deck for free. Well, for 3 mana. That's the cost of playing Kasmina. It doesn't sound too bad, actually. Anyway guys, that's going to do it for this quick spoiler recap for Strixhaven. 2 new planeswalkers that are old planeswalkers with brand new looks. And in the case of Kasmina, it just may be your first time ever paying attention to her. But either way, let me know your thoughts on these new planeswalkers in Strixhaven in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video and want to show your support, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and tick the notification bell so you can catch future spoiler videos. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see ya!